Most people still believe that we have a set number of brain cells, with no way to replace the ones we lose. And who hasn't heard that cracking your knuckles will lead to arthritis someday? Or that using your phone in the cold will permanently drain its battery? These and more are some surprising twists we're about to explore. Welcome to World Decoded. Today, we're tackling some of the most common misconceptions that people still believe. From how our brain cells work to bizarre myths about our bodies and even our gadgets. These myths are so ingrained that most of us never even question them. In this video, we're exposing them, explaining why they persist, and showing you what science has to say about them today. By the end, you'll be armed with the truth behind some of the world's biggest misconceptions. So next time you hear one of these, you'll know the real story. But before we move on, please consider subscribing to our channel as it really motivates us to bring out more informative and interesting content for you guys. With that being said, let's dive in. Let's start with a surprisingly prevalent myth: the belief that humans can't grow new brain cells. For decades, scientists, teachers, and even health campaigns reinforced this idea, warning people that brain cells were finite, and once lost, they were gone forever. This concept became ingrained, fueling fears over lifestyle choices like drinking alcohol or suffering head injuries. Yet research has since debunked this misconception by revealing the phenomenon of neurogenesis, or the growth of new brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus. This part of the brain, essential for memory and learning, continues to develop new cells throughout our lives, proving our brains are more adaptable and resilient than once thought. Another myth involves the everyday habit of cracking knuckles and its supposed link to arthritis. The sound of joints popping has been demonized by many, with parents and teachers warning that it would lead to arthritis. However, studies show that this sound is merely the release of nitrogen bubbles from the synovial fluid in our joints and has no harmful effects. In fact, one determined doctor cracked the knuckles of one hand only for decades, discovering no difference in arthritis between his hands. So, while the sound might be annoying to others, rest assured that cracking your knuckles won't hurt your joints. One persistent myth involves the color of human blood. Many people believe that our blood is blue while it's inside the body and only turns red when it encounters oxygen. This idea likely came from observing our veins, which appear blue under the skin. However, in reality, human blood is always red, just darker when deoxygenated and brighter when oxygenated. The blue color we see in our veins is actually an illusion caused by the way light penetrates the skin and interacts with blood vessels. So, despite appearances, blood is red from start to finish. Switching to food myths, the idea that sugar causes hyperactivity in children is widely believed and has been for decades. The infamous sugar rush is commonly blamed for rowdy birthday parties and excited behavior. However, scientific studies, including double-blind trials, have shown no direct link between sugar and hyperactivity. The environments in which children typically consume sugar, like parties and holidays, are often exciting on their own. So, the next time kids bounce off the walls after cake, it's more likely due to the fun atmosphere than the sugar itself. Moving on to sleep, it's widely thought that elderly people need less sleep than younger adults. While it's true that older adults often get less sleep, studies indicate this is usually due to external factors like medication, health conditions, or lifestyle changes, rather than a reduced need for rest. In reality, older adults need similar amounts of sleep as younger people for optimal health and cognitive function. This misconception persists partly due to the common experience of disrupted sleep as we age, but it doesn't mean older people need less sleep. Another fascinating misconception relates to how we remember things. Many people believe that our memories work like a video recording, storing experiences perfectly and accurately. In reality, memories are reconstructed each time we recall them. which means they can be altered or influenced by new information or emotions. This reconstructive process makes memory highly susceptible to change, which is why eyewitness testimonies can be inconsistent and why different people might remember the same event in conflicting ways. Far from a precise recording, memory is more like a story that changes slightly each time it's retold. An enduring cultural myth involves the idea that eating cheese before bed causes nightmares. Cheese contains tryptophan, an amino acid that can affect sleep quality, but there's no evidence to support the idea that it causes nightmares. In fact, some studies suggest that the protein in cheese might actually aid in better sleep. This myth likely persists due to the powerful association between food and dreams in popular culture. But if you're craving cheese before bed, rest assured it's unlikely to disrupt your sleep with nightmares. Now, here's a modern myth tied to technology: the belief that using smartphones in cold weather permanently damages their batteries. Cold weather can temporarily decrease battery performance, but this effect is reversible. Once the device warms up, the battery should function as normal. In reality, it's high temperatures, not the cold, that can cause lasting damage to a battery. Cold weather might temporarily reduce battery life, but it doesn't have any long-term impact, so you can keep using your phone in the winter without worry. Finally, we have the misconception that we lose most of our body heat through our heads. This belief stems from a misinterpretation of an old military study in which participants wore warm clothing on their bodies but left their heads uncovered. Naturally, most heat was lost through the head in this setup, but it doesn't mean the head alone is responsible for significant heat loss. In reality, we lose heat relatively evenly across all exposed body parts. This means that bundling up in cold weather should involve covering all extremities, not just the head. If you've made it to the end of this episode of World Decoded, congratulations. You're now a little closer to separating fact from fiction. From the myth of blue blood to cracking knuckles without fear of arthritis, we've tackled some of the most deeply rooted misconceptions out there. It's amazing how much we take for granted as true simply because it's been repeated so many times. If you enjoyed this journey into debunking myths and want to keep digging into the world's biggest misconceptions, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss out when the next episode drops. Thanks for watching World Decoded, and we'll see you in the next one.